I was laying on my bed, pondering about the isolation and loneliness I was feeling all of a sudden. And it didn't spawn out of nowhere. It came from poor choices and poor habits on my own part. So that's not something I am blaming anybody for. It's something that I'm holding as a grudge, which is something that I'm working with. I'm asking God for help with. And there was a video that I came across with Alan Parr of The Beat with Alan Parr about this passage of the salt that loses its taste. And there was a thought of it where he was giving a good analogy, but he actually wasn't describing what scripture was saying. And it really perturbed me. Let me back up. Not because what he was describing was incorrect or wrong, but because this is something that I feel a little embarrassed about, but this is something that needs to honestly be communicated, is that I was feeling as though I will be lost in the last final day. And I don't like that. I want to be with Christ. And for the longest time, it's like I just need to have faith. I need to have faith. I need to have faith. And then I'm looking around my life and I'm saying, what works am I doing that's fruitful for God? Well, I was looking around and I'm not doing anything. There's things that I have done in my past, but I'm not currently presently doing. And that is really what was perturbing me, being very specific. Well, when I started reading and exegeting this passage in Luke chapter 14, verse 25, all the way to the bottom through 35, with these 11 verses, there's one thing that I really want to emphasize when we get to the analogy. Therefore, salt is good, but if salt has become tasteless, with what will it be seasoned with? That analogy seems rather out of the blue. And there seems to be a disconnection from understanding what the description Jesus was describing, not even just a parable. That's the analogy. The two sentences down there, the two verses. That's the analogy. Everything else he tells us plainly, rather than like an analogy here and there to emphasize certain things, but he tells us very blatantly in verse 33. But let's go through the beginning of this passage of the cost of discipleship in verse 25. Now many crowds were going along with him. Pause. Who was going along with Jesus Christ? The crowds. Who were the crowds going with? Jesus Christ. When we understand these two things, both one, the nouns or the pronouns, and number two, the verbs. When we understand these two things of following the flow of the text, everything becomes more clear. So now many crowds were going along with Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ turned and said to the crowds, said to them, if anyone comes to me, who is Jesus talking to? The crowds. So if anyone who is listening in the crowds comes to Jesus Christ and does not hate his own father, mother, wife, children, brothers, sisters, and yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. If you prefer those other things, if you do not hate them what's the word? Not disparity, not distortion, in comparison. If they are too close to you in comparison, where that's time, energy, and effort, resources that you could be devoting to me, you don't get to be my disciple. You cannot call me. You cannot be called a disciple of mine. That seems rather harsh. But wait, there's more. In verse 27, he describes more clearly. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. If you want to carry your cross, but then you turn away and want to go with your family might provide you more joy, entertainment, love, satisfaction, and pleasure. But you need to follow me in the times in which you need to pick up your cross. And picking up your cross may mean to love your family in a means in which that is satisfying to me. You might have to wake up a little bit early. You might have to go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning and wake up at 5, 3 hours of sleep for the next 7 years. But I want to go to bed because my sleep matters more to me. Oh, but what does your family need? You are living a life. You must come to Christ and say, God, what can I do to serve you? What can I do? My life ain't mine anymore, because whose is it? We'll get in that in a little bit. Verse 28. For which one of you, of the crowd with whom I am speaking to, when he or she wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost and see if he or she has enough to complete it? Verse 28 introduces an analogy, a description, a parable, quote unquote, but a description of when you are doing something, calculate or count the cost. This is the first time that we are getting an analogy from something that he plainly described as something that you cannot be or do if you don't do X, you can't be Y. You can't be my disciple if you don't hate all of your family lovers, brothers, sisters, etc. If you do not count the cost of following me, you can't be my disciple. And what is the counting of the cost? He cannot be my disciple if he doesn't hate mother, brother, sister, wife, family, sister, etc., and even his own life. He cannot be my disciple if he cannot carry the cross that he is to carry. Verse 28, we see the analogy of if you don't count the cost. Verse 29, lest he has laid a foundation, is not able to finish it, and all who observe it to begin to ridicule him, saying, this man, in verse 30, began to build and was not able to finish. So in verse 28 all the way through 30, we see this analogy of you started doing something, you failed to continue going through it, you failed to follow through on it because you didn't count the cost. Count the cost. Count the cost. What does this mean? I'm hearing this phrase a lot, but what does calculating the cost mean? We're going to get into that in a little bit. But we have to continue going through this paragraph, through this passage. And we have a second analogy that is given. Or, what king, when he sets out to meet another king in battle, will not first sit down and consider whether he is strong enough with 10,000 men to encounter one with coming against him with 20,000? Counting the cost. And then the second part of this analogy is, or else, while the other is still far away, the other king, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. So this king is either going to do one of two things. One, fight another king, or number two, declare and seek peace with this other king. Only two things that you can do, but when you are in the middle of combat, can you seek peace? You have to calculate the cost. You have to think. That's the important part. Just got a notification on my phone. And why is this important? Verse 33. This is the key crux verse. We need to pay attention to it greatly. So then, brothers and sisters, those who Jesus Christ is talking to within the crowd, none of you, there is zero applicability with every single one of you. If you do not give up all of your possessions. Let me read that again. So then, none of you, people I'm talking to, the crowd, can be my disciple, something that he has said multiple times through this entire paragraph, who does not give up all his possessions. Does it mean that you give up your possessions and you go and give it to somebody who is greedy, murderous, rampant, somebody who is sinful and hates neighbor, somebody who hates God? Just go ahead and give it to them? Why? Of course, God would say no, because that person is an abomination, is detestable. You don't just give to be like, you know what, you can have it. And then they go off and do horrible, evil things with what it is that you've been giving them. For example, you know what? I don't need my family, so I'm going to give my family to my enemy. Yeah, that will not bode well. I'll just give it to somebody and then they can do whatever they want with them. What if they abuse them? But it's not mine anymore, so I don't have to care about it. Wrong. The possessions that you own. Question. Here's the one question that matters, and it's the biggest question that needs to be answered. Of these possessions that you own, whose is it ultimately? Do we need to go back to John? I think we need, no, not John. Matthew. Let's go back to Matthew. I'm actually pulling it up on my phone right now, but I'm getting really excited about this. Matthew chapter 28. Oh. Oh, no, it's not Matthew 28. It's the, darn. I think it's either Philippians or Colossians, and that's going to really bug me, and I really feel kind of bad for, uh... Mmm... Darn. Yeah. It's either Philippians where all possessions, let me just start over this. Whose possessions are yours ultimately? Anything that is created is first created by who? God. There is nothing evil under the sun. It's your intention, your heart, your relationship with that thing that matters that makes it either good or evil. Anything that comes into being doesn't come into being because I'm the one that made it so. No. Who gave you the breath? Who gave you the lungs? Who gave you the energy? Who gave you the blood to be pumped through your veins? Who gave you the light to be seen through your eyes? Who gave you permission to draw breath? Who gave you the thoughts to be able to? Who permitted it to happen first? Let me say that again. Who permitted your thinking to be able to think at all? It's God. God. It is God. Anything which I own is God's. Anything that which I think, it's because of God. It's anything that which I am able to breathe, anything in which I'm able to do in this life, it's because of God. So these things that are on my desk, these things in my life, and again, I'm saying things, family, friends, these possessions that I've been given, these gifts, they're not mine ultimately. But you cannot, we'll get that in a second, you cannot be a disciple of God's, of Jesus Christ's, unless you give up all you possess. There you go. But what about this last passage here? Therefore, salt is good, but even if salt has become tasteless, with what will it be seasoned? So if you have salt and it's a seasoning, what do you season a seasoning to gain its seasoning back? You can't. It's useless and thrown away. It's thrown away into the trash. He who has ears to hear, let them hear. Well, hear what? What is this analogy describing about salt? Your usefulness, your usefulness to God is not necessarily what it is you're able to do. You need to be in the state of heart, mind, soul, body, strength, life, in your entire encounter being what this entire passage from 25, the cost of discipleship, all the way through the end of the chapter of verse 35 is the possessions you have. You give them up. What, are we supposed to just give them away? Burn them in a pile? No. They're not yours. Question. Whose are they? They're Jesus Christ's. They're God's. And anything that which you own, anything which you have that is in your heart, Anything that is in your heart, this thing in your body, this pumper, again, it's the will, it's not necessarily the physical heart, but it's your will, your desires, what you move towards, what you possess. These are the things that you are to constantly give up. When you walk through life, I'm a Christian. Life gets hard. Oh, I don't want to do this anymore. You started walking with your cross, but you gave up your cross and started following other things. It's not the fact that you did not bear the cross upon you and you didn't bear a burden. No, 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 no. It's in your heart. It's this idol worship of something else more valuable than God Himself, in which when stress, strife, and woes or calamity dawns upon your life, what do? Are you giving up the thing that which you possess, the thing that which you desire more than God? That makes you either want to pursue God more or the thing that wants you to have an escape. Let me give an example. I'll go ahead and use this example, and I feel kind of bad using it because I feel a little dirty. Is pornography. Do you value porn as a means of an escape when life is getting hard in life? When it's getting difficult and you say, you know what? I want something else. I'm going to go through porn. But what God said was, put your lusts to death. Love does not necessarily mean lust, and to love is sacrificial. But porn is the opposite of sacrifice. It is self-indulgence. It is binging something with no effort given. Your means of escape is your heart. An idol worship of something else other than God, in which when you are seeking something out to do for God and it gets difficult, your heart then says, you know what? I don't want this anymore. I give up. I am moving on to the other thing that which gives satisfaction, love, and joy. So if anything, a means of escape. It's not necessarily your possessions, the thing that's in your life, because things can be replaced. Let me say it this way. You are replaceable. You are replaceable. God does not need you, but God gives to you, and God graces you, and God gives you. I don't know how else to say it. It's just, that's what He does. He gives you something that which you do not deserve. Grace. And all He's saying is, I've given you everything that which you have in life, both the ups and the downs. I want to give you more. For the rest of eternity, I want to give you something that's so magnificently better than any and all things that which I've given to you thus far. All I'm asking is give it all up so I can give it all to you. Because I don't care about what you give to me because I'm the one that gave it to you first. These possessions that you own, you can't be my disciple if you hold on to in your heart these possessions. Give them up, come to me, follow me, bend and beg, grovel at your knees before me. Because I care about your desire for me rather than what you're able to do for me. Because nothing happens without my say-so. Nothing is permitted without my say-so. You need to know the level, you need to know the dynamic, the relationship that we have. I'm infinite, you're limited in everything that which you do. Come to God, bare, naked, and broken. Anything which you have, be like, you know what? This, again, just for an example. This water bottle that's on my desk, this isn't mine, and it's sustained by God. I was able to drink from this bottle because God first allowed me to have anything in the bottle for me to drink in the first place. God allowed me to be thirsty, to be able to drink from the bottle because he has a purpose, a rhyme, a reason, and a purpose for this thing. Why? I don't know. It wasn't revealed to me. But now that I realize it, because I'm now making a video about it, seems rather important, right? And it's again all the other multitude things that are happening in this life. We don't know what it is that he gives to us on a daily basis, but of everything that is given, life, breath, lungs, air, heartbeats, blood through our veins, food, water, shelter, love, clothing, people, technology, internet, information, knowledge of God. These are all possessions God gave to me. I don't own any of it because it's him. It's his and his completely. That's what it means to give up all that you own. It does not necessarily mean you need to understand this entirely in your life right now. But a daily walk every day, coming into the faith by losing what you possess, by realizing it's all God's to begin with. It's not, well, I'll give up some of it. No. All of it's God's. Do we fail at times and hoard things in our hearts? Yes. Do we fail and get distracted by the things of this world? Yes. Do we fail? Yes. Who completes us? Jesus Christ. That is the walk of a disciple in Christ. Your possessions aren't yours. You give them up daily. And by counting the cost, you need to understand from the get-go, none of it's yours. And if you think that it's yours, where did it come from? It came from other things and other people. Where did they come from? Where did those people come from? Where did these things come from? They all came from someone, not just something. They came from God. And you give back to God what is his, which is everything. You give up yourself because your life is yours as well. And your life was given as a gift, a possession that God first granted for you to have to begin with. God, give up to him everything. That's the call of a disciple in Christ.